Happy Sabbath. Good to see all y'all here. David, if you would hit the projector. As you can see, we got some new technology. That box that we bought or voted to buy gives us the ability to do what he's doing. We couldn't do that before. So that technology will, I hope, help us. And also we can listen and hear what's going out. And this morning we caught some bad stuff going on and was able to fix it. But boy, it was good to be off for 2 weeks. For me and David anyway. Was we missed?
You were certainly missed. Yes.
It was good to be off, and I'm here this week, but I was telling David I'll be gone for the next 2, so it's all him. Anyway, what time is it? Is things changing in the world?
Yes.
Just a little bit though, right? Fast? It's getting interesting. Things are really getting interesting. This morning, I got a message, and Bill's going to be excited to hear this, that plywood, OS Advantech, dropped like $40 a sheet over the night. I got a message on my phone a minute ago that Bitcoin broke a major support overnight. I've been saying for a while that we're in for an economic crash, but I could be wrong. Don't run to the bank and pull your money out. But I think it is coming. I don't want to preach on that. This is not about money. It's about what time is it? What time is it? The Lord's coming, that's right. If somebody would have said it was 11:29, we could all went home. But instead we didn't. Breaking news. What is going on in this world today? I can't read that from the screen back there, so I have to read it here. I don't know if y'all can see that. This is why young children need to explore gender identity in our classrooms. California wants to teach kindergartens about gender identity. Public school indoctrinates 5-year-olds about transgenderism. What time is it? Drag Queen Story Hour isn't going anywhere. This was a new one to me that I heard this week. What is Drag Queen Story Hour? Drag Queen Story Hour is just what it sounds like. Drag queens reading stories to children in libraries and schools. What can't you do in a school? You can't pray. But this is going on. Judge Jackson refuses to define woman during confirmation hearings. I'm not a biologist. Is she a woman? I don't know. I'm not a biologist either. Strange trend of food processing plant fires appears across the U.S. Now, if y'all can see the date up there, it's April 21st. Let's back up. Let's read down below. At least 16 fires have broken out at food processing plants, impacting the nation's supply of beef and poultry. April 21st. April 23rd, 20-plus food plants destroyed after Biden warns of food shortages. This is this week. I don't know how many people have seen this. Breaking 10,000-plus cattle suddenly dead in Kansas. All this stuff is interesting, isn't it? What time is it? Food shortages could be just as deadly as a global pandemic. Fewer Americans believe in God than ever before. Why is that? How to argue that God does not exist. Teaching you how to argue that God does not exist. How to prove that God doesn't exist. What time is it? Now, out of all them we just heard, which one should you be more concerned about? Can anybody see this? Honeybees disappearing at an alarming rate. Out of all the stuff we just sang, even if your kid's in school, I guess that depends how you look at it, but especially in a California school, you might want to move. Hey, we live in Tennessee, we're in a great state. But we should really be concerned about honeybees dying. Why is that? This is our next part on our series. Is it okay to ask God, God, are you real? Life will start here as an egg in an octagon-shaped cell. The queen will lay 1,000 to 1,500 eggs per day, up to 3,000 in peak season. Egg to larva in just a couple of days. Filled with a special jelly by the workers. Day 1, larva will eat so much its weight will increase 5 times. By day 6, larva will increase its weight 1,500 times. Two weeks later, adult honeybees. The worker bee. The female. No help will come for her. Work will start immediately. She will start work by cleaning her own cell. In her 4 weeks of life, she will perform every operation of the hive. She is the worker bee. The drone bee. The male, much bigger with no stinger. He'll be helped from his cell. The workers will serve him. With one purpose, he will be cared for. Out of 3,000 bees, only about 100 males will be in the hive. The only purpose is to mate. The queen, in a special place in the hive. Only about 10 eggs will have been laid for the queen. She will announce that she is the queen of the hive. Only one queen can remain in the hive. It's a fight for the hive. All competition must be dealt with. She will sting to death before the threat is real, right through the cells of her opponents. As far as 6 miles one way. Up to 12 hours per day. The equivalent of 800 miles for humans. With 2 things on the agenda. Sweet nectar. And pollen. One million flowers will need to be visited just to make 1 pound of honey. Nectar will be transferred from one worker to the other worker. Removing the water. To make pure honey. Stored for the hive. Both honey and pollen. By visiting the plants, they will pollinate the flowers. Bringing the next generation of life to another year. jar of honey. The honeybees are truly amazing, and after studying them, I would never kill another one. They are truly incredible. According to science, God does not exist. This man is a genius. And if you go back to this man is a genius, but he can't figure out that God exists. Do you know why? I'll tell you why. It says, and you will seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart. So is he looking? No, he is not even looking. Something else to think about these honeybees that I don't know their mind comprehension on this, and I didn't think about this until I studied for them. But didn't the honeybee and the flowers have to come into existence at the exact same time? The honeybee would have died. It has nothing to eat without the pollen and the honey. They eat some of this pollen or honey. They eat the honey while it gives them energy. Up to 6 miles a day in one direction, 800 miles for humans. There'd be a lot of complaining around here, wouldn't there? And especially in this heat. Anyway, what time is it? Now, some of you might have heard this last time. I'm going to play it again. This is something that was said 57 years ago. There's nothing on screen by Paul Harvey. Close your eyes and just listen and concentrate to what he is saying.
If I were the devil, if I were the devil, if I were the prince of darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness. And I'd have 1/3 of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree, thee. So I'd set about, however necessary, to take over the United States. I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of a serpent, I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve, do as you please. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And the old I would teach to pray after me, Our Father, which art in Washington. And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed. And with promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flames. If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to refine young intellects, but neglect to discipline emotions, just let those run wild. Until before you knew it, you'd have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. Within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. Soon I could evict God from the courthouse, then from the schoolhouse, and then from the houses of Congress. And in his own churches, I would substitute psychology for religion and deify science. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I'd make the symbol of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted, until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious. And what'll you bet? I couldn't get whole states to promote gambling as the way to get rich. I would caution against extremes in hard work, in patriotism, in moral conduct. I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned, that swinging is more fun, that what you see on TV is the way to be. And thus I could undress you in public, and I could lure you into bed with diseases for which there is no cure. In other words, if I were the devil, I'd just keep right on doing what he's doing.
Paul Harvey, good day.
Wow. 57 years ago. Has all them things come true? Yes. Plus, the devil, he was smart. He listened to that. You know, everything going on right now is putting God down. And instead of saying that God created us, it's we created God. Derek, back a long time ago, my dad, he planted a pine tree, okay? And he started feeding that thing $100 bills, one a week, and he's planning on that thing blooming. Well, when he died, I took it over. I started planting $100 bills once a week, and I know that thing's getting ready to sprout this week. I know it. Everybody will be over at the house tonight with a shovel and a flashlight. Not true. Not true. And this stuff is just pushing God right out, and we want to bring God right back. Okay, we're going to go back to the first sermon on this subject. And David, if you'll turn the screen back on. What are we looking at? Do y'all remember?
Candles.
What?
Candles.
Candles, a stock ticker. I'm not showing which one it is, but it's a stock ticker. And that's showing what it's doing. And here is another version of it. What are all these other lines that are out beside that? What were they called?
Trends.
What? Indicators. So if we're playing the market, we need some indicators, and if we're looking at the charts can help us and let us know what might be fixing to happen. What is another example of an indicator? And I left my phone back there. I'll use this. Oh, amen, yeah. Is church already over? It's a pretty good indicator that I didn't listen to that sermon. Is there indicators in the Bible about the second coming of Jesus? Let's read this together. Now, as he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples come to him privately, saying, "Tell us, when will these things be, and what will be the sign of your coming and the end of age?" And Jesus answered and said to them, "Take heed that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, saying, 'I am the Christ,' and will deceive many."
But I'm actually Jesus.
I'm actually Jesus, he said. Now, if we go back to our first sermon, we actually went back and we looked. We actually went back and looked and went back to the 18th century. And how many did we find? We found 2. We looked at the 19th century. How many did we find? We found 6. We went and looked at the 20th century. And we found how many? 26. We looked at the 21st century and we found 6. But we can't use the 21st century because we're still in it. There's already 6, and we're not a quarter of the way through yet. So let's look at this just a little bit different today. You can actually see on the chart what's happening. He said, many will come in my name, and we can see that progression is going which way? It's going up. Let's go to a percentage calculator. Now, there was how many the first 18th century? 2. And we go to the 19th century, there's how many? 6. Can everybody see that? 200. Oop. Well, it's not working. We'll get back there. I say we will. Hang on a second. That was an unforeseen problem. Ain't technology great? All right, here we go. All right. So, from here to here, we have a 200% increase or decrease? Increase. Is that a lot? You know, if you're playing the stock market, your hope is to make 10% in one day, right? This is 200%. Now I'm not gonna jump back to that other screen. I don't want that to happen again. So if we go from the 19th to the 20th century, does anybody have a guess what it is? Anybody? 450%. You're close. It is 333%. Now we're at 300, and now the first one was 200%. Now we're 333%. Now that's a small increase. What if we went from the 19th to the 20th? Does anybody realize the percentage increase there? It's 1,200% increase. So if we're looking at that chart, and I've messed that up, and we're not going to be able to do that. Are we going up or down? We're going up. Jesus answered and said to them, "Take heed that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name." Is there many? Is it increasing? Definitely, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Pointing straight up. I am the Christ and will deceive a few. Now, when we went back and we studied these people, if you look at them, the chart's it's in and out. But if we go over here to the last one, his name was John Miller. He's got about 15,000 or so followers. But if we jump to the next guy, which is Apollo, and Josie knows, and she's actually heard his stuff. Where's he from, Josie? The Philippines. Josie used to live there, so he's from the Philippines. How many followers did he have? This John Miller, which is pretty popular on the internet, had about 15,000. Apollo has 6 million followers. 6 million. I'm not going to jump back and do the calculator. I've done checked all this. If you do that increase at 6 million from 15,000, any guess? You are knocking at the door at 40,000% increase. It's 39,900. Now, is that pointing straight up or down? That is definitely up. Now, if we look at this at a different chart, you can't even see the competition. Down here at 1, 2, and 3, now at 4, you can barely see it. In a visual aspect, is it increasing? Dramatically, because you can't even see 1, 2, and 3. You might be, I can barely see 3. 4 is right there, but wow, what an increase. And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled. Did any of that stuff trouble you this morning? It kind of does me. But he says, see that you are not troubled. We need to look the other way. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Indicator 2, and you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. Y'all heard any wars? One big one going on, right? Just on a side note, have you ever seen the amount of destruction in your lifetime that is taking place in Ukraine? No. It's not been seen since what? World War II? So in World War II, we're seeing the level of destruction taking place there.
Just 2 hours ago, Allied air forces began an attack on military targets in Iraq and Kuwait. At this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people.
And just last week, a major new military alliance was announced between the US, Australia, and the UK to counter Chinese aggression in the Pacific.
The first major initiative of AUKUS will be to deliver a nuclear-powered submarine fleet for Australia.
Find those responsible and to bring them to justice. We will make no distinction between the terrorists who committed these acts and those who harbor them.
And the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of it soon.
On my orders, the United States military has begun strikes.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
Taiwan believes Beijing is preparing for war.
War with China. It sounds unthinkable, but according to many experts, the countdown may be on.
America's top diplomat, Antony Blinken, is in Geneva to meet with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov for make-or-break talks that could determine war or peace in Europe.
I'll be moving U.S. troops to Eastern Europe and the NATO countries in the near term.
Really to war? Are we really even near the brink, or is this perhaps just a ploy by Putin? And if so,
the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda.
as much as you give to the United States.
Through simulated invasions, China has been showing off the military might it could unleash if Taiwan puts up a fight.
A war between China and the United States will soon escalate out of control, and that will be Armageddon, Armageddon, and Armageddon. And this is what I hope the Australian people will come to realize, that you need to deal with China with respect as much as you give to the United States.
It's a prospect as terrifying as it is unthinkable. A military showdown between two nuclear-armed superpowers, the United States and China. A conflict that could reshape the world order. The message coming out of China is getting louder by the day. It doesn't like other countries, especially Australia, ganging up and meddling in its affairs.
I think Beijing has been preparing for a war against Taiwan, and that is what we have been seeing. They are preparing for it.
Predicted war was coming.
I think the threat is manifest during this decade, in fact, in the next 6 years.
4, 3, 2, 1, launch.
Is anybody talking about war? You know what's really interesting is when I started working on this, Ukraine was just barely creeping into the news. War. I want to touch a little bit on this subject. If you want a war, it's going to cost you. But it can't be that bad, right? The cost in money. World War II, America's final bill for the fighting in the Pacific and Europe was massive. In today's dollars, World War II cost $4.1 trillion. Now we hear trillion. It's just a number. $1 trillion is just a number. It's not a lot of money. $1 trillion is an enormous amount of money. And we're going to get into money on our next part to this sermon. $4.1 trillion can't be that bad. The cost in money, post 9/11 Afghanistan through fiscal year 2022, the United States federal government has spent the obligated $8 trillion, $8 trillion on wars. 1 trillion is an enormous amount. And we have spent $8 trillion. Not that bad. We're going to try this again. I don't know what's going to happen. If we go to the U.S. debt clock, you see that number? That is $30.524 trillion. That's what the government owes. Now, it's not like I thought that this money was where we just reach out and we borrowed it from somebody. It's not. We sell bonds and stuff, and that's how we get this money. So the money's owed. Other countries, you think, oh, China owns this. That's not true. Each country has a central bank, and they sell bonds. And they have really, really been pouring. Let's go back here. let's jump all the way back to 2000. In the year 2000, we was only in debt $5 trillion. Now, does money come into play? I think it does. And I think it will as we get closer to the end. Let's jump a couple years in advance to 2026. Does anybody know what we'll be in debt or estimated? Almost $41 trillion. This is unpayable. They cannot pay this. It cannot be done. At $30 trillion, if you go back to 2018, because I cannot get 2019's tax data, the average income was about $51,000. If everybody says, okay, I'm going to donate my year's salary, and we're going to pay all that back. Would anybody be willing to do that, first of all? Now, 1 year, you got to go without all your money. There's no money for gas. Gas don't cost nothing, does it? But for 1 year, you would have to go without your money. Would it pay that back? It would not pay that back. If we went 2 years and every tax-paying citizen on the second year, would it pay that back? It would not. If we went to the third year and everybody donated all their money, would it pay it back? It would not. We would be into the next year before we ever achieved that goal. That is every taxpayer. It is an enormous amount of money. I think I know what's wrong. We don't have to do that again. Sorry about that. All right. War, destruction, loss of life, starvation, mass murder, injury, sexual violence, malnutrition, disabilities, illness, PTSD, anxiety, depression, global economic impact. This is war. Will it ever end? How did we ever get there? Because something is wanted. It all started a long time ago. Heaven. peace, joy, love, happiness, satisfaction, beauty. You were the seal of the perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering: the sardius, topaz, and diamond, beryl, onyx, and jasper, sapphire, turquoise, and emerald with gold. The workmanship of your timbrels and pipes was prepared for you on the day you were created. Ezekiel 28:12 and 13. You were the anointed cherub who covers. I established you. You were on the holy mountain of God. You walked back and forth in the midst of fiery stones. You were perfect in your ways from the day you were created till iniquity was found in you. Ezekiel 28:14 and 15. How are you fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How you are cut down to the ground, you who weakened the nations. Isaiah 14:12. Unfair. For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mountain of the congregation on the farthest side of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Isaiah 14:14. Unhappy, jealous, unfair, I, we, me. And there was war in heaven. and war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought, but they did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. Revelations 12:7. So the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old, called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was cast to the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Revelations 12:9. And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled, for all these things will come to pass, but the end is not yet. Many will come in my name, saying, I am Jesus. Have we seen that? Can we check that yes? Does everybody agree with that? So we can check this yes. Wars and rumors of wars. Can we check it yes? We can check it yes. But what if things was just a little bit different and was reading this in the Bible? What if Derek, he's over there mowing his yard, his riding mower broke down. He's got 4 acres. Derek, hey, I'll bring my push mower over and we can do that. We'll be done by dark. Come on. Or if somebody needs groceries, well, my wife, she shops at this store in Atlanta. Well, I'll go get them. War's not like that. Can you have war with your neighbor? You can have war with anybody. Neighbors, friends, family, spouse. Is it like that? Are we at peace? We can see by the headlines there's no peace. So we can definitely, y'all are saying we can definitely check this. The rising threat of nuclear war. If we read the Bible and we're coming to the end, what is different this time? Can it be nuclear? It could be. But what ended World War II? A nuclear bomb, right? I don't think that we're ever going to see a nuclear war, because as soon as that guy pushes the button, he's dead too. So I just don't see it. But what is different? If we read it, how do we compare that? So what is different? Anybody? Are you ready? You ready? God's blessing and spirits being given off in the earth. I agree with that. So you ready for me to tell you? Yes. Oops, change it to what? There's always been wars. There was even wars in heaven. If we read that verse and we just read the wars and rumors of wars, we cannot see that it's getting, there's always been wars. And how long is there going to be wars? There's always going to be wars. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulders, and his name will be called Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, and Prince of Peace. The only thing that is ever going to change that is if Jesus comes back. That's it. But if we look at that, we can check it. There's many coming in your name. There's wars and rumors of wars. But if one of them's not there, I think we could say that Tom ain't getting real close. But are all them things checked? What about the next part? Is there any pestilences? That's the next thing we're going to get into. But Jesus is the Prince of Peace. Let's pray. Dear Lord, we just ask that you will bring this peace into our hearts today, so all these things that are going on in the world will not trouble us. I ask that you'll go with us and be with us as we go home today and bless us this Sabbath. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. There is lunch.